Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 35th online reading event. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to be your host for this evening. Tonight, we are ringing in 2022 with an amazing group of readers whose talent I'm in awe of and whose work I'm tremendously excited to hear. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. At each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers whose work we love to share a selection of their writing with us. Having slots every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you via the Performance Anxiety Twitter account. That's at PerformanceANXT, or you can DM the co-organizers directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TOMSNARSKY on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me at tomsnarsky, same spelling, at gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, Performance Anxiety's other co-organizer, who I'm excited to introduce right now as our first reader of the evening. So without any further ado, Kristin Garth is a Pushcart Rissling-nominated sonneteer and a Best of the Net 2020 finalist. Her sonnets have stocked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of Crow Carriage from Sweet Tooth Storybooks and The Stakes from Really Serious Literature, among many, many more books and other projects. She's the founder of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and the co-founder of Performance Anxiety. Thank you, as always, for being with us, Kristin, and for leading off the order tonight.
Thank you. So the first poem that I'm going to read is pretty dark, but it comes from the book that Tom was just referencing, The Stakes, which is coming out in March with Really Serious Literature. And it's a book about fire being used as a tool of misogyny against women, both historically and in contemporary times. And this poem definitely has some abuse references, and I was abused by my father, who was a firefighter. And so that's kind of the backstory there. But anyway, this is called The Firefighter's Daughter. He'll tell you a story to save your life. Firefighter father who frames it as love. Skin pulled from bones of addict or housewife. Dead flesh soils, same, the palms, gold pigskin gloves. He will show you the gloves, charred black by cooked skin, from bodies baked inside bed sheets, who thought a candle romantic, flickers were friends. Unlovable children, nobody taught. The way he teaches you, terror, preschool, nightmares, flame fraught. 5th grade, read library books about death at the stake. You're certain you'll perish this way, sin, some mistake. He took your world beneath covers, burned his child wife. He told you a story to save your life. And the next poem I'm going to read is a little different. But after I had a very crazy childhood from going from extreme religious oppression to becoming a topless dancer. So in the mix of that, I met Jimmy Page, and it was his birthday the other day. And so I wrote this poem about my experience with Jimmy Page. Big Daddy Energy. You choose me before I know who you are, to spend a week in the life of a middle-aged rock star. Far from your home, you like a strip bar close by, though you are well past the phase when you buy sex, you buy it from someone like me. You have no expectations from transient company, who comes to you in glitter and pigtails, chosen by your own bodyguard. I had a crush on your drummer, who let me down hard. After invited drinks, 2 blonde winks rushed to his hotel room. You pick up his discard, hug me hard. He's reckless, as I used to be. I met you when you had Big Daddy energy. And the next poem that I'm going to read also comes from that period of my life, and it's called, it goes on about the kind of the difference between this town that I lived in, which was very religious, and then, you know, the topless dancing community, which is big here too. So, how many eventually paid for me? I'm funding my way out of religious abuse with small town art modeling, which does not produce enough cash. When prompted, I choose the more lucrative path. In a southern hot town famous for white beaches, showgirls, ecclesiastical wrath. The town is topless clubs, Pentecostal revivals, world tourists converged in Pensacola confess their lust for God, or something less, like me, off duty, a cafe. Does my residual glitter give me away? Do braids I wear to tea on strip club runways point out a sinner to tourists who flew here to pray for me? How many eventually paid for me? And the last one I'm going to read by myself. I have a special thing I'm going to do after that, but it's one for an anthology that I'm doing on Harmony Korine and all of his movies and movies that he's been in and movies that he's, written, directed. And I wrote one about him, his acting in The Girlfriend Experience, and it's called Sugar Baby Exchange. You seek him out in an internet cafe after the government takes your Wi-Fi away and witness protection, but they leave you the dress. Cocktail length, eggshell white, a collared half cape, which suggests you are a lady, someone should protect. Maybe a guru, afraid to have sex, might mar his soul, his sense of control. Once you people on their backs if
Just checking, Kristin, can you still hear us okay? I think some of us in the chat and in the reading might have lost your
Art, can you
audio
hear me
a
now?
little. Oh, I think I can hear you better now. Awesome. Sorry about that. Sorry if we interrupted you mid-poem. Can you hear us okay?
My bad. I can hear you.
So.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can. And if maybe our other folks in the chat can let us know if you're good for them as well, because my mountain internet is not always the most reliable testimony. There we go. Looks like we can hear you, and we're working on being able to see you. And I can see you a little bit now. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yes, so I think. All right. So
well,
I think
anyway, I just the last thing I'll say that is, if you want to submit to that anthology, you can email at pinkplastichouse@gmail.com and put TBOK in the subject. And we're taking poetry, essays, any kind of plays. We've had everything. So, and I had next was to read with Justin. So.
All right. Me and Kristin co-wrote a poem about our love of the show Succession. I'm going to read the first half. It's called, Can Everyone See Me and Everything? Okay, my video disappeared, so I'm like I feel like I'm a ghost right now, which is great. But so the title of the poem is called Kendall Roy, I Love You, But You're Bringing Me Down. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. Every night, too much birthday in the big city. The craziest year of my life, and Kendall Roy, that deeply broken soul, has been with me every step of the way, like a guardian angel with more money than I'll ever need, but with the same taste in music, all bangers all the time. Here it comes, the white lines. Here it comes, the radios replacing our mouths. So every word coming out is disingenuous rhythm, something thought up by someone else. Yet we still shake our hips through boardrooms or tree houses, always acting like young dinosaurs having their first roars, pathetic little fucking narcissists who started this big war against the world, but more so against ourselves. Now watch us fall apart. Here it comes, the hangings of Babylon. Here it comes, the family rubble in our eyes. So every time we try to form a memory of tenderness, the flowers don't feel quite right. But wouldn't it be nice?
Building a treehouse above your grave, where I scribble, swallowed blood, all of the depraved mistreatment I will always crave, because you needed something small to be, a sacrifice to seem a deity. I need to be the last of us alive, undulating in a dying tree. Inside your architecture, I survive. I blossom here, if indecently. The walls are papered velvet, cashmere sheets. I wrap around the men who climb to me. Up rungs I hung the afternoon I grieve, an idea of you I refuse to save. No room inside a treehouse above a grave.
Here it comes, the white lines. Here it comes, the family rubble in our eyes.
Thank you so much, Justin and Kristin, for that beautiful lead-off slot and for taking us into the collaborative space of multi-poet poems. That, again, was Justin, who you'll hear a little bit more from later in our reading order, and Kristin Garth, who you can find on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, and you can follow all of Kristin's amazing projects on her website at Kristin Garth. Kristingarth.com, KristinGarth.com. So we are super excited. I'm glad that you kind of brought the birthday thing into the mix because I'm holding my David Lynch mug and it's David Lynch's birthday today. So here's to too much birthday in the big city. I love that line and I love that vibe as we enter the second, as we bring into our second reader of the evening. Well, I'm very excited to introduce and whose poems are extremely exciting to me. Next up reading is Patrycja Humienik, excuse me. And Patrycja is the daughter of Polish immigrants. She's a writer, editor, and performer based in Seattle, Washington. Her poetry is featured or forthcoming in Ninth Letter, Southeast Review, Passages North, Boat, BOAAT, Columbia Journal, Poetry Northwest, The Journal, and elsewhere. She's working on her first book of poems called Anchor Baby, which we're all very much looking forward to, and I'm really excited to hear your work, Patrycja. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to meet many poets new to me and to hear you all tonight. Thank you so much, Kristin, for that gorgeous reading, and I loved the duo poem. I'm gonna kick it off with some poems. Can you all hear me okay? Awesome. Gonna kick it off with some poems from the book that Tom mentioned that's in progress called Anchor Baby. And this first one is called Failed Essay on Repressed Sexuality, after Elisa Gonzalez. The internet was my childhood refuge. It's where I practice still, erase my browsing history. At the strip club, a friend leans over to say the search for a moral politic is a failure. How it mirrors a religious pursuit, that fervor. I agree, then disagree. I'm watching my favorite dancer, feeling the ghost of my teenage body. A river rushing superimposed boundaries. Do to me what sunlight does to a river. On devotion. Not the splendor of the dead king's baths, but the peacocks demanding devotion. Is it devotion to pour a glass of water for your lover? Alone in the back of a candlelit mass in English, not the vaulted frescoes of my childhood basilica, mumbled prayers in Polish, lit a candle for my mother's parents who I never met. I had questions for God. Do you renounce imperialism? Winters ago, on the phone, a friend saying jealousy is good because it is a form of protection. But what if protection is a form of harm? Winter again snowed in, my lover shoveling flake after flake out my mouth and into the slush pile, a pathway out to where the roads are closed. That it rarely snows where I now live delights and disturbs me, e.g. kiwis ripening in early December. The Midwestern Polish priest, a family friend, sends vaccine conspiracy theory videos via WhatsApp. Along the fence, strung lights remind me of snow, where white camellias grow instead. That I want to see every body of water, lava, lands I don't know the name for, the Red Sea. Isn't it enough to have seen flamingos pink with feeding in the salt flats in the driest desert in the world? Sometimes I think of God while washing my feet. I think of where I have not walked, my longing to go further. Super sweet to be with you all here. Just checking that everyone can hear me. Cool. My chat's really lagging, so can't see it yet. All right. Read a couple more. There's what I think and what I feel, and I don't always know which is mine. Cheek pressed against wood once alive. When I see the cross on the hill near Pilgrimage Bridge, part of me is kneeling inside. I can't turn away fast enough. Someone else's dreams were stitched to this connective tissue before I could give permission. Glia of inherited longings makes my nervous system the closest thing to family I don't have photos of. Fragments linger in my philtrum, little valley. Psalms trying to find a place to rest. The bear that shattered the glass door in my dream brought a message. Something about quiet. My weather app says a nearby river is flooding. Brings to surface another dream. Flooded gymnasium of floating shoes, people wringing out hats, shin deep in cloudy water, with a troubling lack of urgency. I was standing in the water too, willing my feet to dry. Acid reflux. Did it make a home inside your chest? What is the softest thing you've ever held hostage? At what age did you first hide your truest feeling? What feeling then eclipsed the truer one? Who did you blame? And I think I'll close with one poem if I have time. I just realized I wasn't tracking my time. So is one more all right? Okay, cool. Thanks so much, everybody. I found a lover and we left the city temporarily. Crackle of the fire said as much. Temple into the sprawl of limbs which came later. First, the alchemists. Oysters we ate quietly as we could, laughing, not saying a word, eyes full of language. And it wasn't that no one had ever touched me before, but it had never been like this, tunnelless. Not a search for a prize, zippered pearl to coax out of grieving. Not the scarcity of hardship or the dismissal of it, but we did look up, air glow, sky a cicatrix, purpling, paler, damage, and the need to undo it. Not to fix, but to unribbon the past. My mama grew up in a rural place, rolling hills of jade. My name betrayed her wish to leave that lack. Szlachetnie urodzona. desire for wealth and its associated ease. I don't blame her for using a name like a tool for weeding. I too prune and tug at my story, but she wanted me to live up to my name, and for that I might blame her. I learned other names, plants that please me, forsythia, hyacinth, pyracantha. My lover gives me a dried bouquet. I prefer weeping, willow, even seaweed, something of water. I want not to say this, but to be understood with my eyes, the way I was for a moment by the fire. But some lovers are not for lasting, though that part comes later. If I, must I tell the truth? Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for those beautiful, beautiful poems. And that again was Patrycja Humienik, who you can find on Twitter at JEJ_SEN, on Twitter and Instagram at those addresses, JEJ_SEN, and at Patrycya's website, which is Patrycja Sara, so PatrycjaSara.com. And the Seventh Wave, which is a MAG residency and organization at the intersection of art and social issues. Patrycja is the events coordinator or director, sorry, there. And so you can find them at the7thwave.co. And we're all going to keep an eye and ear to the ground for Anchor Baby when it comes out, Patrycya's book, which will be a beautiful, beautiful entity. So thank you for that. And I forgot to mention, because it came up during Patrycya's reading, my mom has this rule that she says she'll never wake a sleeping baby. And similarly, I will never stop poems from happening. So if you go over time, keep reading. Is the long and short of that philosophy. And that will carry over as a golden rule into our next reader of the evening, who I'm super excited to introduce, and that is Ghazal Ali. Sara is a poet and editor based in the Bay Area, California. She received her MFA at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a school close to my heart. My best friend went there, spent a lot of time in the city-state of Amherst with the high-rises and everything. Her poems are forthcoming in Pleiades, Narrative, Waxwing, Mizna, and others. She currently serves as editor-in-chief of the incomparable Palette Poetry. Thank you so much, Sara, for being here with us. Take it away.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so lovely to read after such great poets and then before other great poets. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. So someone had mentioned earlier that it was funny that my middle name was Ghazal, and so I'll read a ghazal to start off. It just feels like the right thing to do. So this one's called Ghazal on the Day of. Like God, I'll create in my image. Go on, past judgment, like I'm not already waiting for judgment. Like I don't tease, don't taunt to turn his eye my way. Like I'm not expiring, short-sticked by a judgment, foretold in unteachable, spiraling math. Each sky's bloated yoke barrels toward the day of judgment. Seated, I take seeds to stifle my soil's waiting green. I liken my name to apology. I wield judgment like a snapped beak and shovel night from my abdomen. Are you watching, O corkscrew calamity, O decree, O closer than jugular? Come for this constellating mess. I'm sorry for laughing, O giver, not for taking, so judge. And this next poem is called Now No Urge of Seasons. Now no urge of seasons, only their utterance, passenger pigeon and eons barreling forward. Before the wedding, our graves pre-purchased, vanishing a gift you say we should try to savor. 2 children, should we have them, we've named ahead of time for the freed slave who called the azan, and a king who spoke the language of every creature, animal or jinn. Should we have them? There are still those who remember when our creekside apartment was an ecotone, oak brush, unchewed by goats who today crowd my window, trimming the reach of wildfires we've come to expect. Sleep is a minor death, a rehearsal in believing in some inhabitable after. The redwoods keeping watch or score. Who is the last among us to see prophets in a dream? Mine long since privatized, mausoleums of oft-polished bones, pinned wings with a surmised sense of sky. The cost of faith is the molting of memory. Years from now, the earth all but effigy, the anthropologists will find us, our pixel-laden grins ossified behind glass. A tragedy began. A tragedy is beginning. When will the tragedy begin? And then I'm just going to read two more. And so this next one is called Magdalene Diptych. I'm never sure if that word is diptych or diptych, but I'll go with diptych. And it's after this really wonderful painting that I came across called Magdalene at a Mirror by Georges de la Tour. If what I saw befell your sight, the epiphany would stream down your face, an exodus of melting retinal butter. So I haven't washed in days. What do you know of a spectator's plight? They tell me in that garden he saw every imminent sin. So he must have known, before I did, all that you would come to think of me. I have no interest in the aviary you keep of my names. The one bright gift of my life is that I was witnessed. The only thing God asks of me is to bear it. The one bright gift of my life is that I was witnessed. Before I could be seen, I was touched. My fingers, your skull. In my hands now, you are nothing but bone, alabaster marked for carving. The penultimate prophet, plucked back by the exacting hand of a childless God, the sustainer places before me this herald of rot. Often I confuse epiphany and anomaly. How a flame helps you see me in this curated room. How when you carry on, tired of looking, it licks then swallows me whole. And this last poem is called Photo Op at Antelope Canyon, which is a canyon in Arizona. Where light passes through, where light is most mercurial, where light flees the ingress of deeper water, where light works best on an iPhone, vivid warm, where light, a certain slant of hibernal light oppresses, where light praises the canyon of water-whipped stone, where light fails to detect the mercury in nearby water, where light leadens in my arms a crowd forming, where light, poisoned, rasps of the mercury in the water, where light paints the evening wall and I take an expected photograph, where light probes my polluted skin, where light harbingers a kiss or cancer, where light illumes the days of the dictator, actor, and poet, where light or night triumphs, where light boasts an illustrious vocabulary, where light brightens the graves of those righteous, where light flees from the mercury in the water, where light comes to coax color from my eyes, where light is a technology that allows looking to control looking. What light shows me and I look away, where the light of God is the same light that allowed mercury in the water. Where light, what light is liable? Is light liable for mercury, the water? Before the light flees, I take a photograph. Cluck, what a shame, all that mercury in the water. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, ending with that powerhouse of a poem. And I'm so happy that light was that sort of anaphoric figure. The last poem that we'll hear tonight will also be a light poem. So that, again, was Sarah Ghazal Ali, who is here with us. And on Twitter, you can find Sarah at CAESARAH_. And on Instagram, you can find Sarah at CAE Sarah. And Sarah is once again editor-in-chief of Palette Poetry, and you can find Sarah's work at sarahgali.com, GALI.com. Whew, yeah, it's like riding the wave of amazing poems as we get into what will prove to be the second half of our reading order now. And I'm very excited to introduce our next reader, who is Steve Henn. And Steve Henn is coming to us. Oh, sorry about that. So yes, my bad. So Steve Henn's new chapbook, American Male, debuts this February, and his last one, Guilty Prayer, was pretty good too. So thank you very much, Steve, for being here with us. I'm excited to hear work from the chaps and beyond.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody. It's been great so far. I'm going to read a few poems from American Male, which Main Street Rag is publishing in a few weeks here. The first one is called I Could Have Said This, but Instead Controlled Myself. My backyard birds sound better than your backyard birds, my brother posted on FaceDump. I wanted to comment, you'll never reach enlightenment if everything's a competition. I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe God loves the fuck out of sports, enjoys seeing losers vanquished in championships, loves the glory of the final adrenaline rush, keeping the winners up, pouring champagne on each other till dawn. Maybe God loves a champion who gloats. Maybe God loathes humility and simple friendship. Maybe the nuclear arms race jolts up God like an 11-year-old in front of a TV full of pro wrestling, sucking down his 5th can of Jolt soda. Every time he sees one human body slam another, he emits an ooh, like he's watching a fireworks show, and punches his brother hard on the upper arm. Here's another one from American Male called World's #1 Dad. I haven't made a family dinner in weeks. I am not winning the single dad Olympics. Father's Day is imminent. Last year I cursed my father at his grave, then wrote a sorrowful, angry essay about him. How will I feel this year? I would like to meditate more on my children. I would like to do my damnedest to appreciate whatever it is they cobble together to appreciate me. Another decorative change jar I'm not really collecting, or that loose bag of gourmet jelly beans. If it's mediocre, that's all the more reason to make an effort. When I was maybe 9, I insisted we buy our dad a World's #1 Dad t-shirt so he could, I imagined, wear it proudly, but my sister, 4 years older and wise to the ways of middle school, said, God, no, who would want to wear a thing like that? She was right. I'd probably feel like a total asshole wearing that shirt, but my dad went ahead and wore it. And this is called, It Goes All the Way Back to 7th Grade. I always think I'm going to be aggressively disciplined when it comes to what I put in my body. Then some siren corner of my brain calls out for a full throttle energy drink, like the babe of the universe aching for the last drip drop of the Milky Way. I will start to starve myself in the way a weak-willed idealist might, not eating for hours until I feel I'm really starving when all I am is hungry. Retrieve the ice cream from the freezer, let the tongue trigger neurotransmitters. What kind of deluded perfectionist thinks he has a right to feel good all the time? A bad headache and I'm praying for the mercy of Christ. A dizzy spell and I sit stiller than stone. Imminent mortality occupying my brain pan like a spider scurrying in a sink. Self-awareness proves less useful than gurus claim. I know things about myself but still don't help myself better myself. Oh me. I apologize for the M&Ms and the ice cream and the sloth and the regretful masturbation. For every urge I caved to, every word I whispered to myself in class about what I wanted to go home and do alone, as if only I knew how much I craved pleasure and the humiliations I would put myself through to get it. I think I've got probably a couple more. This is Guilty Prayer, by the way. Cover art's by the mom of my kids. This is called A Species of Creature. I'm the kind of guy who would hire a hooker so she could hold me while I ugly cry into her breasts. The more true it feels, the less funny it gets. Are animal zoos cruel? A, yes. B, no. C, is it okay if I sit this one out one damn time? Damn it, Jesus. D, let's ask Twitter. According to Uberfacts, there were human zoos as late as the 1950s where white people put people of other races on display. There's no sitting this one out, Bob. Shame, anger, and guilt seem like normal responses to this information, so don't read the comments. Someone is bound to respond, hashtag all lives matter. We are a fucked up species of creature. Do you think horses have this many varieties of mental illness? Somebody retweeted somebody saying, Disney withdrawal is the absolute worst for real. Call me if you have any idea what we think we're even doing. Hashtag I think there's something wrong with us. Okay, last one here. A guilty prayer, also from Main Street Rag. This is called What Darth Vader Taught Me. You can waste your whole cussed life romanticizing the dark side. Luke came home from the neighbor kids, terrified of Resident Evil. When the kids got into F-bomb substitute words, he wanted me to know. For a long time, my favorite novel was Silco's Ceremony. Good fights evil, nobody wins, lather, rinse, repeat, but we know what side we're on, I think. Now recently, the Knicks takes top spot, the horrible, unfair world, the needless cruelty. It's kind of the same thing, just less good guys versus bad guys, more emo. Because somebody told me the enemy is within and I believed it, so I drank antifreeze to purge the hot devil from my guts. Who can say if I was or was not successful? A doctor appeared, asked me, do you really want to die? And I said no, as if answering a question posed by Almighty God, or maybe even Jesus. Let's say Jesus, white guy, long hair. Let's make it someone relatable. No, I said with feeling, like we were shooting a car commercial. Then I passed out of consciousness, not knowing if or when I would wake. Thanks, everybody. Hey, Nate.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve, for curing our Disney withdrawal. That was Steve Henn, who you can find on Twitter at Mr. Steve ENG Henn, so MrSteveEnGHENN, and at Indiana_sad_man on Instagram. You can follow Steve's work, including American Male, the chapbook that's coming out this February, and Finding Guilty Prayer, which we saw the cover of there for a moment. You can find that stuff at therealstevehenn.com, TheRealStevehenn.com. And Steve also has a new Substack newsletter called Misconstrued Prophecy, Sullied Sales Pitches, and Other Odd Revelations. So all of us are, or at least I'm sort of processing the 7th grade flashbacks, especially that the Full Throttle energy drink. Really, like, I remember buying things that were called gazoos at gas stations that were like 2 for $1, and the fact that my innards survived that is kind of a miracle. So let's not dwell on my innards anymore, and let's instead introduce our next reader, who is wonderfully here joining us. I'm very excited to hear his work, and that is Sam Flot. Sam Flot has performed in jazz and rock bands in the San Francisco and Northern California area from 2002 to 2018, reading poems with music. Since moving to Washington, some more Washington representation, he's been without the bevy of musicians he calls friends and has been reading online and making his own music in the meantime. So Sam, thanks for making us part of your online reading circuit, and thank you for sharing what you're going to share tonight.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. What a great crew so far. I'm really, really loving all of this, so I appreciate it. I'm going to start. Is everybody hearing me okay? Yeah, all right, good. Thank you. This is called Tint, Tone, and Shade. Tint, tone, and shade walk into a bar, insisting on equal space and tertiary coloring. Scheming out the wheel, turning to pure colors, distinctively different complements, directly opposite accidents, setting, precedents. And if the North song fills the wind while the leaves have already left, right under our noses, right in front of our lobeses, disappearing into the glade. There go tint, tone, and shade, tempted to hesitate, but still bound by word. They split, complementary to all the timeless drum machines lacking metronomic common sense. I'm reading mostly new ones. I just feel kind of jazzed on them. I've got a couple like that are a week old, and fun to share that way. This one is a little just a philosophy on time, really, called "Hey Clock Wallet." A tendency to tangent will neither complete the map nor lead the treasure to you. If 9/10 of the law is possession, it's not who has the map as much as who has the treasure. Who has the ability to provide or produce such a promise? And who will form an alphological society with the process for reducing redundancy? Saving time, and since time is money, the seasons are adding up on account. The balance sheets are trembling pending double entry. The minutes pay the bill for dinner. The hours have retired to spend themselves at the club. Each year is going to cost you. Each month, 30 days on wholesale. And each week keeps a promise to itself, this payday will happen. Asking who's forming the chronobetical alliance, cross-referencing all the overlapping aspects overflowing with collaborative projections. Escaping the minds and tongues, the fines and dunks, all the falderall overflow, flowing over and over and over. And if 9/10 of the law is possession, that treasure might cost you to produce a promise, to complete a map, projecting the overlapping aspects of cross-referencing, the escaping, overlapping, overflow, overlapping, overflow, flowing over and over and over. Thank you. And I think y'all probably like to write out of a different voice. It's not always your own voice every once in a while. I think this would be the voice of paranoia. It's called "The Camera is a Cyclops." Camera is a cyclops, one-eye psyop. It's not free jazz, it's not bebop, but it feels like it's nonstop. Not drinking champagne, drinking soda pop, and it feels like it's nonstop. Camera is a cyclops. Set it over here by the windowsill, looking out, watching as life stands still. Watching, counting the grains of sand on the beach. Not the ones that ride the tide, and not every and not each. Watching, tree stump, sticking up, appearing grand just where the beach stops being sand. A once proud tree grew from the land to which it returns, ending a lifespan. The camera is a cyclops. The camera is a psyop. It's not free jazz. It's not bebop. And it feels like it's never going to stop. And back on a favorite subject, time. This one's called 60 Little Elves. It's about some friends of mine that helped me break down time. Inside this thin minute, framed by contextual fractals. Illusions are becoming alive and actual. In factoring into the available traction, my understanding off by a fraction. They're not intending to trick me, they're breaking it down from 1 to 60. Each second its own self, a part of the whole, set up on the shelf. And tectonic plates are shifting all around, inside this big rock never taken for granted. And outside, this wind is blowing both ways, fluctuating factors, fake or factual. And telling the story sequentially this time, laying it all out in this continuous line, still as surreal as it gets, using fiction for facts, using friction without tact. 60 little elves on one little shelf, collected like seconds inside the infinite. One elf for each moment inside this thin minute, rocking my world, never taken from granite. Rocking my world, rocking my world, rocking my world. And the best thing I like to say about that one is that my wife's an illustrator. She's illustrated that poem and drew a different elf for all 60 of them. She made 60 different little ones, and it's really cool. It's a book that we have available. This is one called Light is Greater Than Dark. I was happy to see that collaborations happened earlier because I was planning to talk about collaborative projections. And then I was happy to hear light being referenced earlier and decided I wanted to make sure I fit this one in tonight. Light is greater than dark. I think maybe dark simply does not understand light. I hesitate to even attempt to imagine I can think like the dark. But if dark had been for some unnamed time in a deep dark, if inside the deepest depths of this deep dark, a sudden glare were to flash, let's say it's even the slightest flicker but strong. The smallest bit of light is amplified by the deepest dark. It seems to me the dark would be disconcerted. Light has power over dark. This philosophizing can lead to logic. Light is greater than dark, whether dark understands or not. The tiniest bit of light in the deepest depths of dark can be both sight and vision. A fissure in the dark caused by a shaft of light is stronger than the darkest deep of night. Light is greater than dark. I know. I've seen it and felt it happen. Thank you. This is a quick little picture of my book. When bird calls, I answer. Is there enough time for one more? I have no idea how long I've gone at this point.
I will never wake a sleeping baby, and I will never stop playing. So fire away.
It's a quick one that I think any honest writer would understand. It's called File Under Fiction. Everything that's ever been written is fiction, draping itself in the writer's perception, swimming inside the illusion of truth. Everything that's ever been written is fiction, communicated by some form of description, relating ambiguously or with straight up information, which pass through the writer's brain, down the neck and arms, hands, moving keys or pushing a pen. Words given to be hidden gifts for the reader's detection. Remember, all these thoughts are elusive perception. Everything that's ever been written is fiction. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sam, for those poems. And I forgot to mention earlier, but we have a running tradition in performance anxiety that we always celebrate when people are reading new shit, new work that they're excited about. So thank you for making us privy to those new poems. And that again was Sam Flot, who you can find on Twitter at Sam Flot, SAMFLOT. And that chapbook that we saw at the end there, When Bird Calls, I Answer, is available through Sam's website, samflot.com, SAMFLOT.com. And I love that we have had now a couple of narratives of illustration, which I think is great. The illustrated elves, and then Steve's beautiful book as well. So that's really cool. I'm glad. And we've had, ekphrastic poems that Sarah read earlier. So it's just the light is here with us. And that light also is circling back as it did in, like, I don't know, the movie Paycheck or something, because the last reader that you'll hear tonight was also one of the first, someone I'm excited to bring back to performance anxiety. He's read here before. He's also brought into the world anthologies and other things that have given rise to when we, my Lynch mug is right here when we had our reading for the David Lynch or the Twin Peaks anthology. And then Justin's been involved with lots of other awesome stuff. And has worked with Kristin in many capacities. Our last reader for the night is Justin Karcher. And Justin Karcher is a Best of the Net and Pushcart nominated poet and playwright born and raised in Buffalo, New York. He's the author of several books, including Tailgating at the Gates of Hell from Ghost City Press in 2015. He's also the editor of Ghost City Review. So thank you, Justin, for being with us and ending on the same strong note you and Kristin started it with. Thank you. All right, fire away.
Yeah, wonderful work, everyone. It's been very enjoyable. I've been wanting to chat, but I've been so focused on listening, and I feel like I haven't chatted enough, but it's really enjoyable work, everybody. This first poem's, it's untitled, which I hate, but it is what it is. It was inspired by India Walton's mayoral campaign. It's also part of Just Buffalo Literary Center's Lit City on the Move, so it's currently on a bus shelter in downtown Buffalo. What happens when an island of misfit toys organizes toward a better future? A wave of euphoria cutting through the billionaire wind so we can hear every voice again. Community activists always standing in the storm, teaching raindrops how not to fall. What it takes to change. When we talk about metamorphosis, we're talking about the mouth and words that inspire. Mouth as mechanic, keeping our engines running. Mouth as protester, never sleeping. Mouth as unstoppable gardener, growing everything under the sun. Textbooks and poems bursting through the windows of everything. No more boarded up storefronts and empty condo buildings. How hope stretches across every corner. What else to do but pick up the pieces? Truly embrace what it means to be a city of no illusions, where everyone's invited. Here is where we refrigerate our dreams so they never go bad, where they feel uplifted the way birds feel inside trees. And the next poem, it's been 16 years in the making, so I finished it a couple nights ago. It's called The Killing of a Skunk. Aimlessly driving around Buffalo on a summer night back in 2005, Regina behind the wheel of her mom's blue Kia Spectra, Charlie holding his harmonica out the window, the symbol of all our mismatched youthful tones, the wind beating out its inharmonious confusion on that cheap mouth organ. Then we hit the I-190 heading somewhere south when a small, shadowy animal runs across the on-ramp. Regina can't stop in time, a loud thud and a choir of screams. She thinks it was a cat and starts crying because she has never killed anything before. But the cat mourning lasts only seconds because skunk smell starts swirling into the spectra. And I notice Charlie's harmonica quiet on the floor, how even the wind needs an instrument for catharsis, how hurricanes happen when there's no more music. We quickly flee the scene of the killing, wondering if there's a police force enlisted to investigate small crimes against regional flora and fauna. The next day, Regina has to get the car professionally cleaned. We never see Charlie with that harmonica again. And I think about this night 16 years later as I look over the wreckage of my life, on the precipice of divorce and sick with COVID, driving aimlessly around Buffalo in the middle of the night, waving my hand out the window like I'm clutching Charlie's harmonica, and I'm begging the wind to play me something sweet, to conjure a jukebox out of this storm, hit all the buttons and let fate do the rest. What it's like when you're rotting on the inside and the smell finally escapes, when you realize you've been run over by a car, you just don't know when. Hopefully you're a cat with 9 lives, able to scamper from crash to crash, but you also secretly wish you're the ghost of that skunk haunting the on-ramp, cryptozoological superstar of Western New York, of trail of rot until time stops, the shadow of a song the wind will never touch, hormones hiding out in odometers, what happens when you can't get any lighter. The next poem, it's called The Story of My Parents. My dad cauterized gargoyles high up in the trees of Riverside Park. His toes would dig into the bark, carving out the name of the person he always wanted to be. It broke my mom's heart, but only for a little bit. Where I'm from, there are always fathers foaming at the boots. Then they disappear. So much carcass-shaped clockwork. Kids who survive learn to use metal detectors, become exorcists who love the rain. Now, when my mom greets the world, it is through the prologue of an open window. No shame and regret, the long stretching of absence, how it makes tortillas out of the fallen leaves, but nothing to fill them. My mom's story hasn't even started yet. Rusted pedals in the basement, blue piano in the attic, old summers like honey on a skeleton. At least the rain touches her lips sometimes, unwraps her aluminum foil as we roll back the years. All right, what else do we got here? I'm very unorganized when it comes to reading, so I just kind of pick things at random. Yeah, I worked on this kind of prose poem piece. It's called The Art of Putting Yourself Back Together in Buffalo. It was just picked up earlier today by Flypaper Lit. We'll just go with the first one. A long walk around Buffalo to clear my soul. A man near Allen asks me for $1 and I don't have any cash, but ask if he wants a cigarette instead. He asks me what kind and I tell him Marlboro. He thinks for a moment and politely declines. A sudden rush of excitement fills me like a balloon. I love how Buffalo rejects you in very tiny ways. They add up over time. But at this very moment, I'm floating like a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade of masochism. He must realize my unhealthy euphoria because he says, "Thanks for offering me something." And I'm brought down to earth. A couple minutes later, on the one corner of Elmwood and Allen, the place where restaurants go to die, there's a woman dancing for all the cars stuck at the red. She's smiling, but there's probably more to the story. She waves at me and I wave back. I love how Buffalo does everything it can to cancel out its tiny rejections. A wave of a stranger's hand can make all the difference. As I make my way toward downtown, I realize a few things this time of the year. Every hour feels like the witching hour, that there's magic everywhere. You just have to summon the strength to conjure it. It might get dirty, it might get depressing, but you got to do it. A moment of magic is sometimes all you need. I also realize that the closer I get to downtown, the more I think I hear Christmas music. It's probably in my head, some eyes wide shut kind of walk, but I won't plug my ears. Never plug your ears. Maybe I'll head to the ice rink and find no one there. The night is still young, but first I need a cup of coffee. That's the opener for that long prose piece. And then I'm going to go with an oldie. It's a Tailgating at the Gates of Hell book. I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. So this poem was also on an end cap at Barnes and Noble the other day. And I was like, all right, pretty cool. But it's called Tailgating at the Gates of Hell. After swapping spit and getting cozy with a strung out snowman, I'm in the bathroom and see a suicide note written in barbecue sauce on the mirror. You're killing me, climate change, with all this cold and snow. After the plows got through, nothing left of me but a bag of bones and credit card bills. Even when the truth stares me in the face, I'm still in denial. I find some baby wipes in the medicine cabinet and try to make the mirror gleam, a desperate bid to swallow the stuff nobody else cares about. Then there it is, my reflection, plucked out of the grayness of limbo, a man-child wearing a red devil mask and an old Bills jersey, with hands the size of Homeland Security. I'm shaking like slow thunder. I want to grab life by the horns. Suddenly, the bathroom feels like a cocoon, and my old body parts undergo a mint julep metamorphosis. So I exit the bathroom and make my way to the living room. The house party still in full swing. Unemployed hipsters bobbing for dead starfish in large buckets of ice water. They're hoping to regenerate their missing parts. This one bedroom is crammed to the ceiling with greasy auto parts. Two of my exes are making love on a bed of senile carburetors and bitter spark plugs. Fireworks are flying off the pillows. The force of the blast knocking my heart off its feet, and it's like I'm stranded on a small life raft in sex-infested waters. Eventually, I'm rescued by addiction and find peace outside smoking with strangers. In the secondhand moonlight, it feels like we're all headlong out of orbit, like a planet towards some terrible cataclysm. I truly enjoy the camaraderie of people slowly killing themselves. People from Buffalo are strange and intimate creatures, grinding their bodies against each other while tailgating at the gates of hell, hooting and hollering and cheering, drinking cheap Canadian beer and maybe some strong drink, and persevering like pint-sized fish that refuse to be swallowed up by a whale or the heavens. All right. I haven't read that poem in like 5 years, so that was cool. I don't know. I mean, I could literally keep reading it for like 8 hours, but I think I'll end on old Justin material, so I'll end on that poem.
Thank you for bringing us the old and the new Justin. That was beautiful. And that was Justin Karcher, who you can find on Twitter at Justin_Karcher, JUSTIN_KARCHER, and on Instagram at The Man About Town, the_man_about_town. And that, again, you heard from Tailgating at the Gates of Hell, which is from Ghost City Press in 2015. So check that out. And also check out Ghost City Review, Justin's esteemed publication, which I love dearly. We were all just blowing up the chat with quotable lines. I want to get like bumper stickers from all the stuff that we heard. I want a bumper sticker that says cryptozoological superstar of Western New York, which would be very unearned for me, but would be an amazing bumper sticker someday to have. So we are, believe it or not, at the end of our reading order for tonight, which is always a sad moment, but also really exciting to know that we've just gotten to share space with some really incredible poets and just getting to hear some really fabulous work. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you to all of our readers for sharing this work with us, their poems, and everything else this evening. And thank you, too, for our listeners for giving this hour of their lives over to poetry, whether on YouTube or listening live with us now. I hope if you are listening with a sheaf of new poems close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety, Performance ANXT, on Twitter, or you can email me, tomsnarsky@gmail.com. I would love to have you on here to share your work at a future event. Our next reading is going to be on February 17th. We'd love to see you there, and any of our readers, if you have friends who you think would be amazing readers, whose poems deserve to be heard, please send them our way. And as a way of previewing next month's reading, I'm really excited to share a poem. We always close Performance Anxiety with a poem just because that's how it goes. But our reader, the poem that you're going to hear is by one of our readers who will be joining us in February, a performance anxiety returner, somebody who is writing really, really incredible work and who I'm excited to have on, and that's Niesha Trout. So I'm going to close with this poem of Niesha's that she's fortunately given me permission to share in this space. It's a great poem. It's a return of our leitmotif from earlier, which I think is a fun pun, leitmotif. This poem is called Light Doing Nothing. Stuffed on the couch, usually leaking a reliable old saffron from the solar plexus. This isn't even about those plumes of gray vapors in the mind you ask for a certain kind of routine. For instance, if I say anchors and you say doors, those are the desires we pretend don't define us, like cherries pretending to be lesser fruit. My friend said a voice once asked her what she wanted, and she said, "Who am I?" And the sterling voice said, "Okay, I'll show you," and slowly pulled a white beam of viscous liquid from her third eye and pulled it more to let it mushroom out to the sky into more light, then once again into even more blindness than a private heaven could hold. Then it shimmied down and took a nap, lazily fusing the city below. She asked me if I too ever see this tear in the fabric. That's what she called it. But the couch was calling me in again. I must have eaten too much old glow. I don't know where the day went. It must be in my breastplate now, so I sit like a mirror for the TV, lancing the boil, draining the mass, eyes sliding up and down in the same clear black, heaving the size in half like a lover who knows what isn't there.